and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Daniel.
What do you think about the radio announcer voice, Daniel? Does that work for you?
Yeah, except for I'm seeing the face, so it's still creeping me out a little.
Doesn't that always?
Yeah, I guess you can say that. I mean, I've seen the games you've created, so in your graphic design.
Oh, all right. Already a jab here. So, today's episode, I'm just going to gloss over that comment because, whatever. It's fine. No, we're fine. We'll do it live. Today's episode, we're filming a little off today, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't know why. Is something special coming up? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's weird. Normally we film on Mondays. We decided today, it's a Friday today when we're filming it, but we're just in the spirit of the season, I guess, and we decided, why don't we just, and I saw that comment, Face for Radio. I saw that. I don't disagree. Why don't we film an episode today and let's just see what happens, because we had a really great idea for a top 8 debate today. Daniel, do you want to tell the viewers what our top 8 debate is?
I don't think it's a top 8 debate, though.
You're right, because technically it's not. So we had to recategorize it this time around. What did we decide to call it?
This is the bottom 8 brawl.
Yes, it's not a top 8 debate. We're doing a bottom 8 brawl. And we're going to try this out. We're going to see if people like it. And if so, maybe we'll make a running thing of this. But what exactly is a bottom 8 brawl, Daniel?
Well, the bottom 8 brawl is we take the 8 worst rated games on Board Game Geek and we put them in to find out which is the worst game of all time.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a category. True story. When you go to boardgamegeek.com, which is where we get all of our statistics for this, is first off, the first rule, Daniel and I have both had to play the games. Well, conveniently, all the bottom 8, this is the first time that's ever happened. The lowest ranked 8 games on Board Game Geek, we played all of them. We were lucky enough to have done it. So we get to talk about these, and then we're going to be ranking off of 5 different categories. Do we want to tell the viewers what games those are?
So yes, the number 1 seed, which is the way we rank these, is the worst game was ranked number 1. So we're starting with the worst ranked game on BGG, and that is Tic-Tac-Toe.
And this is going to go against a lot of people's favorites versus our number 8 seed, Monopoly.
And it's going to, moving on to our number 2 seed, will be Chutes and Ladders.
Versus our number 7 seed, The Game of Life.
Following that with the next bracket is the number 3 seed, Candyland.
Versus our number 6 seed, Trouble.
And finally, in the final bracket, we have the number 4 seed, Bingo.
Versus our number 5 seed, War, played with a classic deck of cards. Very good. So, but before we do that, normally we ask our viewers for their categories. We just forgot to do it this time.
I'm not sure. I just didn't remember. This is kind of a last minute kind of thing.
Yeah. But we did come up with some dishonorable mentions that we would like to talk about, as true with our normal top 8 debates. So let's bring out the coin of doom and decide who's going to talk about their number 3. And we're going to start with Daniel. Go for it.
All right. So my number 3 honorable mention is, or let me rephrase that, dishonorable mention is another game that can be played with just a pack of cards, and that is Go Fish. I didn't even like playing this as a kid, so I can imagine trying to play this with kids nowadays. Oh, I'd be so bored out of my mind. It's a boring game. I'd rather play probably all 8 of the games in our dishonorable our bracket here than this one. So yeah, my number 3 dishonorable mention is Go Fish.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's crossed my mind. This is on my short list of dishonorable mentions because I definitely thought of this one. But along the same kind of vein, my number 3 is Old Maid. Not only is it similar to Go Fish, but you don't even have the chance of asking them what they have. You just pick a random card out of their hand, If you happen to make a pair, you put it down, get rid of it. The problem that I have with Old Maid is the fact that there is an odd amount of cards because you have to have the Old Maid card, right? So you in no way can deal it out consistently amongst a certain number of players. It's near impossible unless there's certain circumstances, like if there's 15 cards and there's 3 players, you can do 5 cards each, but it's really unlikely, right?
Yeah.
However, all you're doing is picking a card at random, looking at it, seeing if you make a pair. Technically, if that same card continues and people just take the same cards continuously, the game goes on indefinitely. There's absolutely an opportunity for it to go on indefinitely, never end, and very little choice in that. So that is Old Maid, my number 3 dishonorable mention.
All right, moving on to my number 2 dishonorable mention here, and this is one of the mass market games that gets talked a lot, like Candyland and Monopoly and stuff like that. But this is strictly a toy before it is a game, and it doesn't work properly, and that is Mousetrap.
Mousetrap.
It's an okay game-ish. You're building this contraption. You're trying to catch this mouse. It's a toy. It's a toy. It's what it is. And it's a toy that doesn't function. So you're paying all this money for a broken toy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so every copy I've had has worked, but I guess that's technically worked. Like, I don't know if it's working the way it intended, but like things fall over and then you laugh at things like breaking. It's pretty fun. My number 2 dishonorable mention is a game completely void of any choice, any strategy whatsoever, and it's billed like it's a big strategy game. And I've actually seen it. I've had people honestly come up to me and say, "I love playing this game." And it's called LCR. Are you familiar with LCR, Daniel?
I've heard of it, never played it.
Okay, so LCR is very simple. You deal out a number of poker chips to every player. Okay. On your turn, you roll 3 dice that have either L's, C's, or R's. And sometimes they'll have a little dot on it. Okay. If you roll an L, you pass one of your poker chips to the left. If you roll an R, you pass one to the right, to the player on your right. If you put a C, you put it in the center, and that's effectively out of the game. And I think if you roll a dot, you just keep it, and it just doesn't do anything. Last person with chips remaining wins. That is exactly how you play that game.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep there for a minute. What?
Yeah. People say it's like a betting game. It's like a gambling game. No. At least in gambling games, you have a choice of where to put like your poker chip or whether you keep going or whatever. This is completely void of gambling. There's no choice, no nothing. You just see what happens. It's like gambling playing with war. You're just flipping cards.
Yeah.
Seeing what happens. Yeah. That's my number 2. LCR.
All right, so moving on to my number 1 dishonorable mention, and I had the great luck playing this game with you and getting to watch you play a really great game after I had the best first turn ever and died of dysentery. And that's Oregon Trail, the card game. I wouldn't even call this a game, in all honesty. You're just flipping cards. It's really the random. Sorry, I got distracted by a comment. And so I'm just going to go back into what I was talking about. Oregon Trail, the card game, it's not a game. It's you flipping over some cards. You're either going on the trail or something bad happens. For me, when we played it, I flipped a card and got dysentery and died. First turn. Didn't even get to play the game. Watched you keep going through it until you died.
Yeah, and that's a shame because it was really going off of a lot of people's nostalgia, because the computer game, from what I remember, it had choices,
You had some choices. You can go this way. There was like a split where you can either cross the river or go further up to find a bridge. There was some interesting stuff in the computer game. This one was literally flip a card. Okay, which way are you going? Flip a card, flip a card, flip a card. Oh, snake bite. You're poisoned. You're dead.
Yay.
And I got to watch you play for like 3 or 4 rounds, and I was already done.
Now, I'm going to give you a history lesson. You ready to hear some interesting board game history?
What's that?
Okay. the 1850s is around. This is back in the day. There is a man who is known for producing photographs of Abe Lincoln with a beard. Okay, because Abe Lincoln used to have a beard. He ended up shaving it off. I believe prior to him becoming president. So this man took his entire company creating a business based off of a bearded Abraham Lincoln. And then when he shaved off his beard, when he shaved off his business was completely ruined. And this is actually true. This man decided, well, what makes sense instead of selling bearded pictures of Abraham Lincoln that don't make sense anymore? I'm going to make board games. And he made one of the earliest known games known as the checkered game of life. Have you heard of this game, Daniel?
No, I have not.
Okay. So the history behind this is the predecessor to the game of life, which we'll be debating here in a moment. Except this is made on like a checkerboard and it plays essentially like Chutes and Ladders. You get to a certain spot, sometimes you go down, sometimes you go back up, and you're trying to make it to the ripe old age of, I believe, 50, and then you either die or retire. However, what makes this game incredibly dark and weird and twisted is the fact that the checkered game of life has different life events that happen, and no joke, there is a suicide space on it. It has player elimination and has a silhouette of a guy who hung himself. What a downer.
Yeah.
And so Parker Brothers decided 100 years later, or it might be Milton Bradley, 100 years later, they would produce the Game of Life, which is actually the 100th anniversary of the checkered game of life. And that's what we'll be debating here soon.
Okay. That is that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Was that your number one?
That is my number one dishonorable mention.
All righty. That on that down note, let's move into these brackets. You want to describe how we do the criteria?
That's right. We break it down into 5 different categories when we do our debates. First off, ease of play. That's our first category. And that's how simple and familiar you are with the rules, how easy it is to get to their table, and what is the likelihood of being analysis paralysis prone, as we call it, or AP prone. What overwhelmed with strategy or choices, options, stuff like that will cause an average player to freeze up. What's the likelihood of that? That's our first category. What's our next one?
Our next one is replay value. The length and time of the game, the scaling of said game as well. Is a 2-player game just as long, or does it get really much too long at a 4-player count? So their length of time and the scaling of the game. Minimum number of plays to get the complete playthrough of the game. Do you play the one game and that's it? You know how to play it and that's all you need to know? Or is there more to it that add things, or like a campaign game? Expandability. Does it have one expansion or expansions already? Does it have up to one possible future expansion that we assume is coming? Or is it got expansions that have been confirmed by the designer or publishers?
And then we have meaningful choice, impacting other strategies or impacting your long-term strategy, and the ability to make non-arbitrary choices. Did you say this one already? I don't think so. Right?
No, you're doing it right.
All right, cool. And then the last one is
game immersion. We have game immersion, which does the game fit the category best? We flip-flop these. If it's a category about a certain mechanism, then does the game fit that mechanism the best? Or in this case, does the mechanism match the game the best? So when we're talking about a worker placement, is the worker placement what drives the game? Player interaction, i.e. the table talk, whether it's trash talking or planning your moves or trying to get things going on if you're co-op. And then, of course, those memorable moments, those stand-up moments where you shout across the room and make everybody look at you.
That's right. So we have those broken down, as we said. All right.
You forgot the last category. Art and production.
Art and production. Never mind. Art and production is our final category. How well are the components made in the game? How good is the art? And how well does the graphic design help you in the gameplay? That's it.
Well
So
then.
this will be very interesting, I feel.
So the new rule for bottom 8 brawl is usually in a top 8 debate, the person that, or the game that wins 3 of the 5 categories moves on. In this one, the game that wins 3 of the 5 categories loses.
Yep, that's right. So how about we get started on our first bracket, Daniel?
All right, we got tic-tac-toe versus Monopoly. Who's going first?
Versus Monopoly. You are going first, sir.
All right, and I have to argue tic-tac-toe.
All right.
As I drop my mic. Sorry about that, people.
My ears are bleeding.
Yeah, well, you make my eyes bleed sometimes.
Sir.
Have you seen your graphic design?
Speaking of graphic design, tell us about tic-tac-toe.
Tic-tac-toe has the best graphic design. You just make a grid on any piece of paper or flat object. Heck, I can play this with pen, pencil, paper, on my wall over here with a marker. I can play it on my desk over here with a knife. You know, I can have fun with it. So tic-tac-toe can be played anywhere. And what else?
That is pretty convenient.
So that is very convenient. It's a quick game too. It doesn't take more than 2 minutes if you're really concentrating on what you're doing. It's fairly simple, so a lot of people can, you know, learn it really easily. It can be taught really easy because all you're doing is putting an X or an O in a field. Other than that, it's pretty simplistic.
Simplistic, yeah. So let's tell you about why Monopoly needs to move on and why it's such a better game. Which I know is
not move on.
Yeah, which I know is not what we're not debating. First off, art and production. This has art. It has production. That's about it. The graphic design I would actually give to tic-tac-toe, honestly, because you know what the X's and O's mean. You know, it's Monopoly is just colored banners and that's about it, right?
Yeah.
But as far as strategy goes, you know, you have that level of negotiation. You have the ability to make house rules in this game. I mean, how often have you been playing this game in elementary school and somebody lands on your boardwalk and they're about to go bankrupt and you say, give me your money instead, give me your lunch money, and then we'll call it even and I'll still let you play. And then suddenly you're now getting a double lunch for that lunch money. Isn't that a great time? Teaching kids to swindle and steal and be manipulative little jerks. That's how I remember growing up. And that's why I think Monopoly should move on. No, and then on top of that, you know, the choices, rolling both dice and moving that number of spaces, that's a meaningful choice right there. Absolutely. You're beholden to it. Whereas, like, let's be real. That is worse, not knowing what space you're going to land on because you have that huge board you have to keep continuously passing by. Every time you go through start, you're getting more money added to the list of the game. So you're extending the gameplay. And then on top of it, tic-tac-toe, it's a hard strategy game because you have up to 9 spaces to place your symbol. That's important. Every move counts in that game. Technically, you can end in a draw, but so can you can in Monopoly too when somebody flips the board. So I think it's even. Our friend True Mechadon says, see, if you play tic-tac-toe, play it in giant tic-tac-toe with each square. Yeah. Gamers tic-tac-toe, I actually really do enjoy it. It's pretty cool. But I agree with it. And then the spot that you place it on dictates which grid that the other player can play on, which is super cool. Yeah, I'll actually show you that sometime. It's better than regular tic-tac-toe for sure. So should we break this down, or what are we going to give it to?
Ease of play. Okay. Which one does that go to?
Tic-tac-toe.
I agree. Replay value.
Monopoly.
Yeah. Meaningful choice.
Monopoly. Well,
no, I give this one to tic-tac-toe because you can impact other people's strategies as well as your own. And you don't really want to make an arbitrary choice in it.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that.
Game immersion.
Art and production.
Oh,
Let's go art and production first.
Monopoly.
Monopoly. Pewter pieces, man. Little metal boots.
Paper
Love it.
money.
Paper money. Paper everything and tic-tac-toe, right?
No, you can play it on a wall, like I said. That's not paper.
That's true.
All right.
Then, so it comes down to game immersion. So in Monopoly, you are big, rich barons, real estate people. You've met a real estate mogul before, right? Have you had a good time spending, or have you spent a good time with them and enjoyed every moment of it? No, of course not. And that's what brings out a Monopoly. In tic-tac-toe,
That is true.
clearly you are ancient Norse gods, sending, the spirits to Valhalla, and you are creating the passages of the realm, which is the 3 in a row. You have to create the branch to the river Styx in order to bring them to.
Wait. River Styx, Norse gods. What?
Yep. No. It gets its mythology a little mixed up, but that's generally, the synopsis of it.
All right, game immersion, I think, should go to Monopoly.
Agreed. Tic-tac-toe moves on.
Moves on.
Man, that's difficult. It's like, man, we give the final point to Monopoly. Good job, tic-tac-toe. Our next round will be our number 2 seed, Chutes and Ladders, versus our number 7 seed, The Game of Life. And I will be starting off this round.
All right, let's see what you get once I put these in the Cup of Doom.
Let's find out.
You get The Game of Life.
Of course I do. You're giving me all the complicated games. So
well, you did mention its predecessor, so it's fitting.
This is ironic because of the fact that the checkered Game of Life is really just Chutes and Ladders with a really dark overtone to it. That's all it is. But the Game of Life, first off, there is no choice in this. You are literally moving from one side of the board to the other, doing random objectives, random occurrences at all points. There is a single choice in this entire game. You ready to hear what it is?
Go to college or not?
You know what the one choice? Huh? College or not?
College or not?
And really, that's really the choice in life, right? College or not. I have done the college part of it. I have not done the or not. But for a while, I did or not. For 5 years, I was or not. And then I went college. And currently, right now, I'm or not. But I guess it's and not. Currently is really what it is. But
True.
You know what? There's something that's amazing in the Game of Life that is absolutely phenomenal. And that's I forget if it's either the mechanic or like the engineer, but if somebody spins the spinner, and I don't know if you know this is actually a rule. If somebody spins the spinner and it dislodges from the spinner, then they have to pay the engineer $10,000 and they put it back and fix it. I swear to God, that's a real thing. I love that. That's fantastic.
That's a cool one.
That's game immersion right there. Game of Life gets game immersion because of that alone. All right, Chutes and Ladders, your move, sir.
So Chutes and Ladders, it's going to take me a little bit to remember this one because it's been a bit since I played it, but it's a game that you can play with kids.
Chutes and Ladders.
Yeah, it's a game you can play with kids. It's easy to touch and learn. You move across a board. If you go up a ladder, you climb a ladder. If you hit a chute, you go down the chute. All your point is to get from the bottom of the board to the top of the board. The first one to do it wins. It's a race. Yeah, it's a game, again, that's easy to teach and learn. Really easy to move along the lines and find out where you're going. It's got a bunch of offshoots because I think snakes and ladders are the same thing. And yep. Another game we're going to be talking about is kind of the same thing, Candyland. So
Candyland was, yeah, well, I'll get into that. We won't start yet. So let's break this down. Ease of play.
They're pretty much the same.
Yeah, except you have to count money at the end of the Game of Life.
True. So Chutes and Ladders is a little bit easier because you don't have to count.
Yeah. Although, let's be honest, likelihood of getting it to the table based on the theme, I mean, everybody knows what life is because we're all doing it, right? You
Then
know,
yeah, I'm not going to want it to get to the table. I'm already living life. I don't want to live another one.
well, that's it's not the point. It's the fantasy of living out your true passions in life and then spinning a oversized spinner.
That's the only reason I'd get it to the table is the spinner. You should have just mentioned the spinner to begin with.
That's true. That's true. All right, so art and production, game of life,
Game of life.
sometimes. All right, replay value. Technically, you
Game
could
of
play like
life.
millions of people. Well, the scaling, you could do as many as you want for shoots and ladders. It's just however many pawns are included in the dollar store version of what of the shoots and ladders that you bought. That's
Yeah.
really all that matters. So, a minimum number of games for full experience. There are technically different jobs in Game of Life. So,
And different houses that you can get.
yeah, okay. So, Game of Life gets replay value.
And art and production. So meaningful choice.
Game of Life because there is
Because
the
it has
one
that
choice.
one choice.
You have one choice in it. Okay.
So
And then
right
game
there is
immersion.
3.
Yep, right there is 3. But game immersion, let's just be real. Which one is more immersive?
Game of life.
Game of Life. Yeah, because you can make a pink peg or a blue peg. So that means shoots and ladders moves on.
Alrighty. So our next one up is Candyland versus Trouble.
All right, Candyland versus Trouble. That would be you starting off.
All right. Can you guess which one I don't want?
Trouble.
Yeah, actually, I don't want Trouble.
I don't want
Just be-
trouble either. Let's not make this into trouble. No.
All right, I get Trouble.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So Trouble is. I gotta ask you a question first before I go into describing Trouble. Do you like Parcheesi?
Yes, I actually do.
Then you'll like Trouble maybe because it's a simpler version of Parcheesi. That's really all it is. It's got a really cool popper, so I think it gets art and production just because that little pop-o-matic, I think is what it's called.
Pop-o-matic. Yep, that's right.
Because we
Patented.
needed something that make a dice roll better.
And it does. It really does. Well, it doesn't. It really doesn't work very well, but it's really fun.
For a bit, and then it gets really annoying just listening to that pop over and over and over as you're trying to move your pieces around the board. You only get 1 die in there, and you can only move your pieces at minimum 6, and you need a 6 to get in back into your home base to try to win the game. So it's a good game-ish, but I'd rather play Parcheesi or heck, I'd rather play Sorry, who was on my short list for dishonorable mentions over here.
Well, those are very similar. In all honesty, I mean, Trouble, I give you art and production. That's fine. Totally give you that one. Because Trouble, it's interesting. Well, I don't know if I'd give it art. Because Candyland.
Okay, Candyland. Well, no, because Trouble has the art. Okay, I won't give it the art part of it, but it's got those little pegs, the recessed boards for you to put the pegs, so it lessens the fact of the board getting bumped and things falling out. You got the little popper thing to roll the die because, throwing it out of your hand became a problem.
Yeah. Well, you can have everything included into the game,
Yeah, and you get a smaller version if you want to take it on the road. You got Trouble.
Trouble.
So
Trouble.
you have options that you can play a game without worrying about pieces falling out while driving on the road. Hopefully the driver's not playing, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, then you're in real trouble. Anyway, so Candyland, let's talk about that. First off, art and production goes to Candyland because art. Everybody recognized the Candyland motif. It's awesome. Everybody loves it. I mean, I'll give it that it's not as good a production as Trouble, but the art on Candyland makes sense.
Yeah, the art is fine, but the pieces and components are better in Trouble, and the graphic design is better than in Trouble.
True. And that's mainly because the colors in Candyland are kind of pasteled, and thus for you and I colorblind folk, because that's the whole premise of the game. You draw a card, you go to the spot, the next spot of that color.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. If you get to the end first, you win. Now here's the thing though. They have mitigated random in that by having a deck of cards instead of die. Now think about that. There's an equal distribution of each of the colors, unless you lose one or like your snot-nosed little brother like spills milk on one of them and you gotta throw it away, and then but then you still play anyway, and then you just get like an index card and you draw like a shape on it and like color it in with a crayon, and then like but then you know every time you pull up that card because it doesn't shuffle and mix well with the other cards and it's obvious that it's an index card. It makes you hate every moment that you're in there. But Candyland is lovely because it's really just such a happy feeling. It's a perfect nuance of just being sugar loaded and fun, and it's been spoofed in every like yeah. I don't have much else to say. It's really the point of random. So break it down. Ease of play. Candyland.
Candyland,
Okay. Art and production.
trouble,
Okay. Meaningful choice. Trouble.
trouble.
Trouble. Because you do have multiple pieces. You got to choose which one you move.
Which one moves? Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with that point.
Replay value. Trouble.
Trouble.
Yep. And
Game
then
immersion.
Candyland. Now, there's a lot of table talk. It's like him and that candy cane, boy.
All right, so that means Candyland moves on,
Candyland moves on.
and it's going against Chutes and Ladders. Okay.
Ooh, nice. Okay. And our last one is Bingo versus War. All right. And that will be me starting this round.
All right, let's see what comes up for you. Shaking the cup of doom, grabbing the piece of paper, and you have to argue war.
Okay. So
What is it good for?
I do know. Oh, good God, y'all. I do know why this is a worse game than our number 4 seed bingo. And let me tell you why. In War, the whole strategy of the game is you each flip over a card, whichever is the higher card gets set aside. Okay. There's one critical factor in that, is that if you flip over cards of the same value, they are tied, then you go to the next card. Any ties will then go to whoever wins the next highest card. There are 4 copies of every card in a deck of cards. So I'm not saying it's likely, but it could happen. So the fact that only the same cards are dealt at the same time, and it is an indefinite loop where nobody wins. Think about that. Not only is it completely void of choice, void of random, or it's entirely random, the only production value you have is which deck of cards you're playing with, which is only, I mean, that's only up to whatever deck of cards you're playing with. If you have like a beautiful deck of cards like this, like the bicycle architecture cards, gorgeous, right? Great production value. But if you're like me and your parents buy you like dollar store, like 2 packs for $1, you can imagine that don't even shuffle. They just fold in half the minute you try and bridge them. No, it's awful. And then some people have the idea to play War with multiple decks. Think about that for a minute. Whose
No.
great idea would that be?
It
What
would
is that?
take
How
too
fun is that?
long.
Yeah, just like
Here's my
rolling.
thing. When we played War, we played with the variant where when you have 2 of the same, you throw out 3 cards and then flip the next one.
Okay. So if that's still the same, you do it again, right?
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. In fact, that
Yeah.
makes it less likely to.
I don't disagree with you, and I believe War should go on. I do have to say that I have some issues with bingo. It's
Okay.
basically gambling. That's literally all it is, based on a tumbler. I mean, you get your bingo balls the same way the lottery gets their balls. So
Whoa. Let's stop talking about these ball manufacturers. All right.
And here's the thing: there's
You
a
can't put
Spanish
that.
version of it called loteria.
Loteria.
So it's just saying what it is. It's gambling, but that's really my only gripe with it. It's that it's gambling. and that you can find it being played all the time in churches. Not right now, but usually they have bingo nights at churches, and being dragged along to those when you were a kid is quite boring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you remember the good old days when you had games like Keno, like an actual like bingo at a casino? Keno, yeah, it's a perfect example of that. It is gambling, but that is also fun in the excitement. Like people do bingo rallies and bingo halls for a reason, because that's it. While it doesn't take much strategy, it's just as random. There is a definite end goal.
All right, let's break it down this way. We get it all correctly.
Okay.
And ease of play.
Wash.
Yeah, it's the number's called out, a letter and a number, and
Actually, I would almost say war is easier to play, just because having to find the spot on the bingo board. It's the only
all
thing.
right. So ease of play, war.
Okay.
Meaningful choice, though.
Bingo?
Well, you can impact other people's players in bingo by going, bingo and winning.
And winning, yeah, you impact the likelihood of other people winning because you won. That's I don't know. You can't impact their strategy though, because there's no strategy. You can't impact long-term goals. I mean, I guess
you can't do that in war either.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And the thing is, this is why I think bingo wins, because you don't really make an arbitrary choice in bingo. You just mark the card that gets called. Where your arbitrary choice in war is you're flipping a card.
In bingo, you have the choice of what board you take.
All right, bingo wins a meaningful choice. Art and production.
Bingo. Hold on, let me just take that in for a minute. Bingo won meaningful choice.
By the skin of its teeth.
Just barely.
Art and production. If we're talking about the Loteria version of bingo, that's some pretty cards.
Yeah, they can be, but then you can just have a nice deck of cards too. So,
or as you mentioned, the Dollar Tree cards.
Yeah, you could. So, I mean, that's the same as like the cheap like dollar store bingo, where it's like where you just have like little cardboard discs instead of like a big tumbler. Yeah, I would say production, because you have traditionally have the tumbler, that would go to bingo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barely again. Replay value.
God, they're both so boring. No, replay value would go to bingo because of the number of players that can play all at once and legitimately have.
And legitimately, you can play like 4 or 5 cards at once, depending if you pay for them.
Yeah, but no, I get that, but I'm saying like, yeah, exactly. Like you're playing all those. People even sell bingo markers, like the
yeah. There's a little markers for bingo.
Okay, so we're saying replay value is bingo.
Yeah.
And definitely game immersion is bingo, because that's a whole culture. So bingo, congratulations. War moves on. Wow, I can't believe bingo won it, because there is technically more meaningful choice. And now we're going into our semifinals. It will be tic-tac-toe versus war.
War.
All right, Daniel. Who's the underdog here?
War?
I guess so, huh? All right, and you'll be starting off this argument.
I get war. I get the underdog.
All right.
All right. So for war, I played this more than I played it at tic-tac-toe as a kid, because once you find the pattern in tic-tac-toe, someone can always beat you in said tic-tac-toe. There's no pattern defined in war. So you can constantly keep playing the game and, have fun when you're 4, 5, 6 years old and learning numbers and kings and jacks and all that kind of stuff. It's got great production value if you have a great deck of cards. It's one of the first card games I ever learned to play. And then once my grandfather and parents figured out I liked playing with cards, they taught me better games. So it led to, actual better games to play. So there's that, the nostalgia of that. But other than that, I really can't argue for war much more than all you need is a deck of cards.
Yeah. No, I think I think war should move on over tic-tac-toe because I understand what you're saying, but I would say it's the opposite because if players play optimally at every time, it it is guaranteed to be a draw if you play optimally. You can force it, it's never the first player. The first player can't just lose based on the strategy. It is absolutely either a win or a draw. So second player has a distinct disadvantage to playing because they have one fewer spot that they can go to. They have less, they yes, there's more meaningful choice of where you're putting it and how you're blocking it, but really there's the only space that is absolutely advantageous to play as your first turn is the center space. And then if as long as you play it out correctly, it'll be a draw every time. I will give it
Hey,
meaningful choice. And
tic-tac-toe?
yeah. Art and production technically goes to war.
Technically.
Yep. Replay value, war.
Let's call that a wash because they're pretty much the same. I mean, I could play like 6 or 7 games of tic-tac-toe on the same paper.
Yeah, but the thing is, the player range and scale, it's stuck to 2 players.
Okay, yeah. All right,
War
war. Game immersion.
Game immersion, tic-tac-toe.
So we got meaningful choice to tic-tac-toe, game immersion to tic-tac-toe, replay and art and production to war. So which one is easier to play?
Wow, it's boiling down to this, huh? Well, that would be war.
Yeah, war is easier to play.
That's true. Or what? Let's see here. Is comparing 2 different numbers, which is a first grade mechanism, easier than 3 in a row?
Well, you would have to know the numbers are higher. So, I mean, a 4-year-old can figure out 3 in a row more than if a 3 or a 5 is higher.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they could play completely arbitrary and still like get 3 in a row, possibly. But here's the thing, like, and then you also have to know the hierarchy of the ace, the jack, the king, and the queen. You know, those are just 4. If you're going alphabetical, then that doesn't make a lick of sense, you know.
True.
The queen is the most valuable. If you're going phonetical, then I don't even know how you put those in order at that point. So there's a lot of ways to do it. And True Mechadon brings up a very good point. War is a mechanism that is still used in games today.
It is, but it's also mitigated in those same games today. You're putting the specific cards that you want in your hand and comparing.
So, but let's compare it to a game that's incredibly popular that uses a war mechanism. You ready for it? Root. Root uses a war mechanism. Roll 2 dice. The ones that are higher, kill the others. That's just war.
So people are more familiar with it. Yes, I agree with that. But again, people need to know how to read the numbers. You don't really have to worry. You just got to make sure 3 X's are in a row or 3 circles in a row.
Yep. Okay. So pattern recognition is a lot easier. You're talking like preschool pattern recognition. That's easy. Versus comparative numbers, which is a first grade standard in the United States. You know, numbers up to 20, that's enough to compare letters. Cool. All right. So we're saying war is more complicated and tic-tac-toe is easier to play. So war moves on.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Our next one is Chutes and Ladders versus Candyland. What has our life become now? This is
I don't know. I honestly don't know where we failed in life.
And we brought this upon ourselves. That's the worst part. I will be arguing first.
And you will be arguing Chutes and Ladders.
Okay. Clearly, Chutes and Ladders needs to win. You have a grid board. They really are just about the same game.
They really are.
Yeah. As long as you know ladders go up, chutes go down, that's it. As long as you remember that part of it, it can play itself. Whereas Candyland, yes, it can play itself too, but
you also need to know the colors.
You need to know the colors. And there are more than just 2 colors on that. You know how I know this? I've seen it. I've seen the board. And even though I'm colorblind, I know there's more than 2 colors because there's a lot of cards that you're flipping over. So you have, if you're giving this to a first grader, They have to know each one of those colors and be able to compare the two. Whereas if you're comparing chutes and ladders, oh, well, you just have to know the concept of a chute or a ladder. Well, guess what? Every playground has a slide. At least they used to. I don't know if they still do.
I think they do, but it's in that over incorporated one jungle gym type thing nowadays. So instead of those big, massive metal slides we used to have.
Oh yeah, the kind that like on a hot day in summer you would have like scalds,
like burns on the back of your legs.
Oh, those are the best. And then if you were up on the top, they had the bar, so you can just like completely launch yourself down. Those were the days. That's chutes and ladders, right?
I'd rather play with that chute than what we're talking about over here.
That's a good point. All right, so
all right, ease of play. Which is easier?
The chutes and ladders.
All right, replay value.
Replay value. Ooh, goodness. Technically Candyland.
I agree. I'll skip that one real quick. Art and production.
Candyland.
Candyland.
Absolutely.
Game immersion.
Candyland. Yes, of course. You're immersed in that universe. I mean, that's almost more of a complex gaming universe than like Gloomhaven even is. Like you feel like you're in the Candyland. You get a sugar rush. You get a sweet tooth. You get the craving going. You know, yeah, the whole thing. You see a massive candy cane house. You're like, what am I canceling Gretel? What is this?
All right. So right now that means chutes and ladders moving on, but let's do this just to get a fair choice. Meaningful choice. Which one has more meaningful choices?
That's a wash.
So number 2, chutes and ladders moves on.
All right. So that means our finale. Remember, for our top 8 debates, and now today for our bottom 8 brawl, we are going to compare war versus chutes and ladders, and we're going to break them down just simply by their category to find out which is actually the worst game of all time on Board Game Geek, according to us.
Yeah. So this
is there any that immediately stick out to you?
Yes. Art production.
Chutes and ladders?
Chutes and ladders. It literally has more production value.
It does. And let me put it this way though. You know how much I like a deck of cards, right?
Yeah, you have what, like almost 2,000 of them?
I have about 2,500, yes. So I'm going to show you, like take a look at this card, the Ace of Spades, right? You know what the ace is, but you look at the symbol, that's the spade, okay? The symbols on a suit of cards they're actually incredibly valuable to know. It's like spade is 1 because it has 1 point, heart is 2 because it has two bubbles, diamond is 4 because it has the 4 points, and
clubs are 3 because it has the 3 circles.
3 circles, yes. So if you think about that, there's actually a hierarchy of the cards. And that's really one of the most beautiful parts about this. These symbols that are on cards are actually incredibly valuable in a lot of games, and especially understanding that hierarchy. Now, what does war do? Completely ignores them. Completely. It's like the only real functional part of it, of that symbology and that graphic design, and completely just disregards it. You could play this with like just having fingers with numbers on it and just holding up a random finger. It's the same thing. And then if you have a lower number finger, you snap it off and then you're done. Whoever ends up with less broken fingers wins. Yay. That's prison rules war.
All right. So going back to our criteria and outside your hatred of war, we're breaking it down how we normally do.
I lost where we're at. I'm sorry. I got very passionate about it. What?
Any other than art and production, is there anything else that jumps out to you?
Ease of play. And that's because any kid can pick up a cube and roll a die. Kids can't shuffle. That is a very strict manipulative thing. And if you're not getting a proper shuffle, you can't.
You're saying chutes and ladders wins ease of play.
Yes.
I actually have to agree with you on that one.
Yep. Because
in all honesty, again, we're going back with the fact that you have to learn the numbers. And then
Yeah.
you got to learn how the letters work. Whereas Chutes and Ladders, you roll the die, you move how many paces. If you're going on a ladder, you get to climb it. If you're going down a chute, you get to, because you're like, it's a slide. So you go down the slide, you go up the ladder to go to the slide.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's much simpler.
Meaningful choice I would give to War. And let me tell you why. With a deck of cards, you have a choice to play a different game. You don't with a Chutes and Ladders board. You don't. I'm sorry. It's just, it doesn't, like, you have a Chutes and Ladders, you're like, oh, I guess I'm playing Chutes and Ladders. If you have a deck of cards, you're like, I don't want to play War. Can we do something else? Sure, 50 pickup.
I'd rather play 52 card pickup.
Huh?
All right, I'll give you War as meaningful choice.
Okay.
Because you have that meaningful choice to play something else.
Yeah.
Replay value.
Chutes and Ladders, because at least it's funny, like when you go down a long chute or up a big ladder. That's funny.
Honestly, you'll probably be replaying the same game over and over again because you keep going down those chutes.
Yeah, probably. It's really difficult. But it has that stand-up moment, though. I mean, really. Which goes into immersion.
That goes to game immersion. So you're saying Chutes and Ladders for game immersion as well, and I will agree with that as well.
Yep. Because I mean, when you roll a die and you're like, all right, don't roll 5, don't roll 5. Ah, I got a 5.
rolled a 5.
Everybody's standing up. They're like, haha, you lost. You're a loser. Put your head down. Walk away in shame. We're all going to point at you.
So by my calculation here, Chutes and Ladders wins our 5 criteria 4-1. Therefore, War is the worst game on Board Game Geek.
Yep. Congratulations to every game except for War. Oh goodness, this was a weird episode, but this has been good fun.
My brain hurts a little bit just how weird we had to do these things. It's like this just doesn't seem right. It's like it's opposite day or something.
Yeah, it's
or like
weird.
a joke's being played on us.
Yeah, who knew? Well, I hope people who listen to this, especially the day it comes out, will really enjoy this episode. We had a lot of fun filming it. And if you ever want to join us in one of our live episodes, like our friend True Mechadon or any of the other viewers that are here with us today, you can join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
As well as you can find all video re-uploads of this video, as well as the others that we post on YouTube at Everyday Board Games 2020. And if you like what you see, please give us a like and a subscribe. It does us a favor and grows on the platform. As well as you can find all audio versions on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean.
And if you have an idea for a future episode or just want to reach out and say hi, email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
You can also get in contact with us on our official Twitter account for Everyday Board Games, and that is at EBG Podcast.
So we want to thank you for tuning in to this very special edition of Bottom 8 Brawl. Tell us what you think down in the comments or by sending us an email. We'd love to hear your feedback. And as always, I've been Daniel.
And I've been Daniel.
And thank you for tuning in to Everyday Board Games.
Have a good one. April Fool.